Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to math. Today's a very, very exciting day because today we complete synthetic divisions. Okay. Today we're going to put in everything we've learned so far into effect in today's problem. Okay. Things that we've learned so far are we notice that when it comes to synthetic division on the equation, on the polynomial, okay, it usually always tells you how many outcomes of zeros do you have, depending on your biggest coefficient, okay? So we know that there are three, okay? Because remember, our problem for today is f of x equals 5x to the third plus 12x squared minus 29x plus 12, okay? That's the equation. Notice that the leading coefficient is 3, so there's 3 outcomes. 3 outcomes to 0. So we know there's 3 answers that will give us a 0 at the end in the synthetic division. We also know that in order to set up your synthetic division, we have to know the equation P over Q, or also known as your constant over leading coefficient. Okay? In order to set it up, we really need to know this one mostly. Okay? Remember, 3 outcomes, P over Q. So now that we know all these rules from previous videos, we can actually solve this equation. We can say that our P over Q in this case is, our constant is our P, our Q is our leading coefficient. Okay? So we can say that 12 over 5, which if you guys remember, we have to break it down, okay? All the factors of 12 are 1, 12, 2, 6, and finally 3 and 4. Okay? Now the factors for 5 are just 1 and 5. Okay? Because 1 times 5 is 5. For 12, 1 times 12 is 12. 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay? If you guys remember, once we have this part ready, we can actually start dividing. Okay? So we have 1 can go into 1 time. But remember, it's plus and minus 1. Okay? Then we have 1 can go to 2 times, so plus and minus 2. And obviously, to skip a little forward on this video, because it's pretty much a review, 1 can go into all of these 1 time. So we have plus and minus 3, plus and minus 4, plus and minus 5, not 5, 6, and then plus and minus 12, okay? But we also have, let me see if I can do 12 on the bottom here. After 6, we have plus and minus 12, okay? Make this a little better. But we also have, if you guys remember, the 5, okay? So we have fractions now as well. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 6/5, 12/5, okay? So we have plus and minus 1/5, plus and minus 2/5, plus and minus 3/5, plus and minus 4/5, plus and minus 6/5, and finally plus and minus 12/5. Okay? So we have all these different outcomes. It's a lot of outcomes, okay? Because remember, each one is 2. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, okay? So we have a total of 24 outcomes. But remember, out of those 24 outcomes, how many of them have zeros? 3, okay? Because remember, your leading coefficient tells you how many answers have 0. So all you really need to find is which 3 is the ones with zeros, okay? That's the part for today's concept. So when out of those 24 outcomes, it's a lot of outcomes, I know. There are some that you have to do trial and error for in order to find them, okay? I will say this. Once you find one of them, it's easier to find the rest of them with other techniques we've learned from quadratics and the past concepts. So let's try some trial and error, okay? So make sure you write all this down. Okay, if you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause it, and then we can continue on today's video. All right, guys, since we already have all of our outcomes, remember we had 24. Now we're gonna set it up. We're gonna have our little kind of division there. Remember, the numbers we used for the original problems go on the inside. If you guys remember, it was 5, x to the third. Remember, all we need are the numbers. So we have a 5. We have a 12, a negative 29, and a positive 12. Now that we have those numbers, remember, we're going to pick one number out of all these outcomes. It can be either positive or negative, okay? I'm going to start off with a positive 3. Let's start off with the positive 3, see what it gives us. Okay, remember, the first one always goes down. So we have 3 times 5 is 15. Notice that they're both positives. So we have 15 plus 12 is 27. 27 times 3, I will say this, guys. You really don't have to work them all the way through because you can already tell that 27 times 3 is a really big number. Okay, it's not gonna, you're trying to get close to 12 at the end, okay? Because the whole goal is to have a negative 12 because it's positive, and then if you have a negative 12 equals 0. So that's the goal, to get close as we can to 12. Notice that 3 times 27 is pretty much a really, really big number. Okay, it's like a 70, 80, and 81. It's not going to get close to 12. So we already know that 3 doesn't really work. Okay, so we can cancel out 3. Let's try negative 3. So we go again and erase all our equations. Bring down the 5 again. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. 12 minus 15 is negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9, which is negative 20, because we subtract 9 from negative 29. Notice that again, 3 times 20 is 60. Okay, it doesn't really work out. So we know that both of these 3's don't work out. We can say that's out of the picture for both positive and negative. I'm just going to skip this a little forward because we still have a long way to go. I'm going to choose one that already works out. Okay. For ours, I'm going to choose a 1. Okay. Because 1 works out. 1, and it's positive. 1 times 5, because remember, the 5 comes down. 1 times 5 is 5. 12 plus 5 is 17. 17 times 1 is 17. 29 minus 17 is negative 12. Okay. Negative and positive is negative 12. 12 minus 12 is 0. Look at that. It worked out. Okay? So we know positive 1 is one of those three outcomes. Okay? So positive 1 is an outcome for 0. Okay? Now that we have that part, we can continue doing trial and error to all of these. Or once we find one, we can do something similar, something simple, which is, if you guys remember on the previous concepts, I said the last number after the 0 is your constant. The next one has an x, and then the next one after that has an x squared, and so on and so on and so on. So we have 5 x squared, since positive 17, plus 17x minus 12, okay? Now that we have that, okay, we use the numbers we got. This is a regular quadratic. You can either use the quadratic formula to find the answers, okay, which sometimes it doesn't really give them to you. You can even break them down, okay? Just keep in mind that if you get an I in there, okay, it cannot work out. The one I'm going to use the quadratic because it's a little more time. What I'm going to use is I'm just going to break it down, okay? Two numbers that give us 12. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Okay, those are all the factors of 12. Factors of 5 is 1 and 5. Okay? Now that we have that, we're looking for the number in the middle, which is 17. Notice that my 12 is negative. So one of these two numbers, whatever I choose, has to be negative. Okay? For the sole purpose, another part that is trial and error, but for the sole purpose of me getting along in this video, okay, because it's a pretty kind of long video, is I'm already going to use the ones that work out, which in this case is 3 and 4 with the negative 3. The reason why is because if we would have used 5 and 1 and 12 and 1 and 12, it would have been 12. 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 12 is 12. But since one of them would have been negative, it wouldn't have reached 17. But if we do 5 times 4 is 20. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. So 20 minus 3 is 17. Okay? This part, I had some of you that had a little problems with it. If you need more help with it, let me know. Okay? But now we found the number in the middle, 17. So we use 1, 5, negative 3, and 4. The way we set it up, guys, is I've always said, always put your x's first. In this case, let's put it over here on the side. Okay, so we have x here and x here. Okay, because remember, your original problem is x squared. We're trying to arrive at this backwards. Okay, so x squared. So we have an x on both. Now the numbers we used are 1 and 5. They're both positive. So there's a 1 here, a 5 on the next one. So it's the two numbers we used. Here, order does matter because one's positive, one's negative. Okay? I multiply the 5 times the 4 to give me that 20. So always put the ones you multiply on opposite groups. Meaning that since the 5 is over here, we're going to put the 4 next to the 1. Since it's positive, plus 1 or plus 4. What's left over? Negative 3. So we have minus 3. Okay? Now that we have that, okay, this is our problem now. Okay? Equals to 0. Make sure you write all this down before I erase it to make room. All right, now that you have it down, we have x plus 4. I'm not going to put the 1 because we really don't need the 1. X plus 4 equals 0. Also, 5x minus 3 equals 0. Okay? We're solving for x. So we have x plus 4 equals 0. If we're trying to move the 4 to the other side, it becomes the opposite, right? Instead of positive 4, it becomes negative 4. So minus 4, minus 4. So x equals negative 4. Okay? Now let's do the other one. Again, we move on the numbers that are constant first. Plus 3. We're left with 5x equals 3. Okay? Then we divide by 5. Because remember, we're solving for x. X equals 3 over 5. Okay? Hint, hint. We found all three answers. Okay? If we plug in negative 4 to the synthetic division, it's also going to give us a 0. If we would have chosen 3 over 5 positive, it would also give us a 0. So our three outcomes, because remember, there was 3 outcomes. The outcomes are negative 4, 3/5, or 3/5, and positive 1. Okay? So those 3 numbers give you 0. Okay? That is the goal of today. Like I said, we could have done it this way, or we could have gone back and tried to plug in as many as we could into a trial and error at the beginning, which I think well, at least I feel like it's a lot more work. Okay? You choose the way you want to do it. If you want to do it trial and error, that's fine. If you want to break it down, the quadratic, it's fine as well. Okay? I'll accept either one. Make sure you find all the answers to your problems. Okay? So here is your assignment for today. All right, guys. So your assignment for today is x to the third plus 4x squared minus 25x minus 28. Okay, that's your first one. Your second one is x3 or x cubed plus 6x squared plus 4x plus 24. Notice that I gave you 2 examples or 2 problems. I really want you guys to get the hold or the hang of this assignment or this problem, or this concept, in other words, because it's going to be one of your concepts in your finals. Okay, so make sure you submit your answers for both of these problems. Also, don't forget to ask questions, guys. If you have questions, okay, ask. Don't hesitate to ask. Don't be afraid to ask, guys. That's what I'm here for, okay? I know it's a very long concept. It's a long process. We're gonna go get through it together. We're gonna learn it. We're gonna, okay, solve for x's. So make sure you submit your answers as soon as you're done watching the video, and I'll be waiting for your email.